One of my favorite courses to teach in my 300-hour program is the myths behind the asanas. I've always been one of the myth girlies who like to get into the story. And so tying in the mythic threads to our chakras and social justice work is important to me. It's an important part of the book that I'm writing. I think storytelling is something that is vital to community and um, vital to our learning and our understanding of the world. The throat chakra of Vishuddha is not only the seat of voice, but it's also the seat of story. Across cultures, myths hold the voices of gods and goddesses and archetypes that teach us what it means to speak, to sing, to scream, to resist. So much of what we even know about history in many cases comes from storytelling, from oral tradition, from Vishuddha. Myths of the throat remind us that truth is never just personal. It is cultural, it is political, and it is cosmic. In this chakra, we look especially at the ones whose voices were silenced and the ones who refused silence. The first myth I want to introduce you to is Saraswati and the river of speech. Saraswati is the goddess of wisdom, speech, creativity. Her name means the flowing one. She's often pictured sitting on a lotus, Veena, the instrument in hand, the river of speech running clear and unstoppable. Saraswati teaches us that voice is not noise, it's current. When we speak with clarity, words flow like water, nourishing, shaping, and unstoppable. To honor Saraswati is to let your voice be a river, not dammed up by fear, not spilling into chaos, but flowing in truth. And then there's Kali. And Kali is one of my favorite goddesses. She's a bad bitch. Kali is not polite. Kali is fierce and wild and unapologetic. And I think of Vishuddha and Kali and the sword of truth. In one hand, she has a sword. It's the blade that cuts through illusion. In another, she has a severed head, and this is the ego that is silenced by this blade, by truth. Kali teaches us that sometimes voice is rage. Sometimes truth must roar. Sometimes the only holy word is no. Kali reminds us that to speak with power is to risk being called too much, too loud, too angry, too dangerous. And she says, good, fuck them, speak anyway. She's got a sword and she's gonna chop off the head of ego. And then there's Medusa. I was recently in Istanbul and had this unexpected meeting with Medusa in an old Roman bath where there was this magnificent statue of Medusa. And as the lights would change inside the baths, the shadows of Medusa would come up on the wall with all the snakes coming out of her head. Something I'm not going to ever forget. When I was little, my grandfather, I had very curly hair, and my grandfather used to call me Little Medusa, which is something that maybe that's why she's near and dear to my heart. But they said Medusa was cursed. She was a monster with serpents for hair and a gaze that turned men to stone. They said she was dangerous, ugly, unworthy, a witch. And they told this story for centuries to warn women what happens when they're too powerful, too visible, or too much. But here's the part they left out. Medusa was a priestess. She was sacred. She was violated by Poseidon in Athena's temple. And instead of punishing him, Athena cursed her. Patriarchy rewrote her survival into monstrosity, so her truth could never be spoken. But silence is not the end of the story. The serpents that crowned her head are not shame, they're sovereignty. Her stare is not a curse, it's a mirror. It petrified only those who would violate her again. Medusa is every survivor who was ever blamed instead of believed. She's every truth teller labeled dangerous because her story cracked the system, every whistleblower, every voice twisted into caricature so it could be dismissed. And here's the magic. When you speak the truth they try to bury, when you reclaim the story they try to twist, you become Medusa. You stop apologizing for your power. You let the snakes hiss. You let your gaze burn. And you say, if my voice scares you, good. It should. Medusa teaches us that Vishuddha is not about being palatable. It's about being untamed. She's the throat that refuses silence, the story that refuses erasure, the voice that petrifies shame and turns it into stone. Medusa is not a monster. She is myth reclaimed. She is voice unbound. She is every one of us who chooses to speak up anyway. All of these myths remind us that Vishuddha is not about being nice. It's about being true. Saraswati teaches clarity. Kali teaches fierce courage. Medusa teaches reclamation. Together they say, your voice is sacred. Your truth is spell work. Your words are resistance. This is Vishuddha, the roar, the river, the sword, the serpent, the song. So sit up tall, adding a little extra ritual for you. Sit up tall, you can take that Shank Mudra, hands at throat. Close your eyes. And we call on the myth of Vishuddha to awaken our voices. Take a deep breath in and then exhale with a sigh. We call on Saraswati's river. Visualize a wide, flowing river of light blue water. See it pouring from your throat, carrying your words with clarity. We'll chant the word Ham one time, with your voice steady, smooth, and flowing. Breathe in. Say softly to yourself, may my words flow clear like Saraswati's river. Now imagine a sword of flame in your hand. This is Kali's blade, with the power to cut through illusion, the courage to say no when it matters. And allow your hum to be sharp, fierce, and unapologetic. Breathe in. Say aloud, may my voice roar with Kali's truth. And finally, call Medusa. Feel serpents rising around your crown, alive and hissing with sovereignty. See her gaze blazing through your own eyes, not to destroy, but to petrify shame, to freeze oppression in its tracks. One more time, chanting Ham, letting your voice be low and guttural and resonant. Breathe in. Say with power, if my truth scares you, let it. My voice is sacred. Now rest your hands at your throat. Breathe deep. Saraswati's river, Kali's sword, Medusa's gaze. 3 voices, 1 Vishuddha, your truth, flowing, roaring, unbound.